Hi everyone, I hope you're all having a pleasant day, and if not, hopefully this video will make things better. Today's game is suggested by one of the viewers, Pradyumna Suresha. Thanks for your suggestion. It's a game between Nakamura and Praggnanandhaa from round 18 of the Tata Steel India Blitz tournament. I will only be going through a section of this game, so I hope you don't mind. Now keep in mind that this was a blitz game, so it's natural to have lots of mistakes from both players. This is the position on the board after 49 moves. So we have a knight endgame with equal material. White has more space and a more active knight. So he is definitely slightly better, but is this enough for a win? So here Nakamura played knight d8 check. He could also consider the move king to d4, with the idea of knight c5, trying to win the pawn on a6. So if the knight is taken, then king takes c5, white is going to win the pawns on the queen side. But here after knight c5, black doesn't have to take, he can simply go knight b8, defending the pawn on a6, and it's not clear how white is going to break through. So instead of the idea of king to d4, Nakamura goes knight d8 check, king e7, and we have some shuffling of the pieces. King e3, king f7, king d3, king to e8, and here knight d4 from Nakamura. He shifts his attention now towards this weakness on h5, so knight to e2, g3 is in the air, and this is actually quite a tricky move to deal with. This also comes with tempo on the pawn on e6, and Praggnanandhaa immediately blunders with king to e7. So here black's most accurate defense is to play knight to f8, protecting the pawn on e6. So if knight to e2, then knight g6 gives black sufficient counterplay by attacking the pawn on h4. Another idea which would help black to hold the position is king to f7. So here after knight to e2, black goes knight to b8 with the idea of going knight c6, which would threaten the pawn on b4. So here white is almost obliged to play king to d4. So now knight to c6 can be met by king to c5. So here black goes knight to d7, creating a wall preventing the king from entering the position. After knight g3, king to g6. So here if white tries king to c3, trying to triangulate with king to d3 and king to d4, then here black goes knight back to b8, threatening to go knight c6, and white has to return the king to d4, and black should be able to hold this. But king to e7 is a blunder by Praggnanandhaa, which allows white to go knight to e2, and after king to f7, here white gains the advantage by playing knight to g3. The idea is that after king g6, king to d4, this puts black in zugzwang. So you cannot move the knight, otherwise the king enters into the queen side to capture the pawns. So if he moves the king, let's say king to h6, then here white has knight takes f5. The idea is that after this is taken, e6, and if knight f6, now this king has a clear route to the queen side. King is simply going to mop up the pawns, and white will promote one of his queenside pawns. So here after the move king to f7, knight g3 by Nakamura should allow him to win the game. But instead Nakamura plays king to d4. But this position is still very tricky. Praggu goes king to g7, so here not king g6 because then knight g3, which again puts black in zugzwang. If king h6, then knight takes f5. So here after king g7, Nakamura goes king to c3, trying to triangulate. And here black should probably play knight back to b8 with the idea of coming knight to c6, and if king d4, then knight back to d7. But instead, we have king to f7 from Praggnanandhaa, which is again a mistake, because now white can go knight to g3, and after king g6, black has to defend the pawn, then here king d4, again reaching the zugzwang position. But here after king to f7, Nakamura plays king to d3, so he could have played knight to g3 here. So here again Praggnanandhaa can go knight to b8. This is a very important idea in this position, always forcing white to go king to d4, and it's very hard for white to make progress. So if king d4, then knight back to d7, covering these squares. But here, instead of going knight to b8, Praggu plays knight to f8. Nakamura again misses his chance to go knight to g3. Here he played king to d4. So knight to g3 again would have allowed white to maybe win this game. If king to g6, then white goes king to e3 or king to c3 just to waste the tempo. If knight d7, then king to d4, reaching again the Zugzwang position. So here if knight g3, if black tries knight to g6, hoping to take on h4, well, this doesn't work because after knight takes, white plays king to d4, threatening king c5 and king b6, and white is going to mop up these pawns. So knight g3, again, Nakamura had the chance to play this, but here he went king to d4. And here knight d7, black has to stop the white king from entering the position. Knight back to g3, king g6, and now white has to step backwards. He would love if it was black's move in this position, but here unfortunately is Hikaru's move. So king to c3. The best defense was probably to continue on with the idea of knight back to b8. But here Praggu plays king to h6, allowing Nakamura to triangulate his king with king to d3. So here if king g6, then king d4 again reaches the Zugzwang position. So here Praggu tries knight to f8. But even here king d4 and white wins, threatening king c5. If knight d7, then knight takes f5. But here after knight to f8, instead of playing king d4, Nakamura goes knight to e2. But even after this miss, white is still surprisingly better. So if king to g7, then here white wins because this knight is on f8 instead of b8, so there's no threats of knight to c6, so white can freely triangulate around these squares. So here for example, king to e3, king f7, knight to g3 attacking the pawn, king g6, king to d3, so white just triangulates on d3, e3, and e4. Here if king to h6, then king d4, threatening to enter the position. If knight d7, then here again the idea of knight takes f5. So here even knight e2 and white is still better. So instead of going king g7, here king to g6 from Praggu. And knight to d4 from Nakamura. Again here king to d4 is very strong. But Nakamura goes knight to d4. So his idea is that after king f7, he sacrifices the piece on b5 to get a past a pawn. But Nakamura misjudged this position and it actually turns out to be a draw. So after a6, Praggu has to keep watch of this promotion square, so he plays knight to d7, a7, knight b6, king d4, king to e7, king to c5, so this knight is forced to a8, king c6, king to d8, and here king to b7, attacking the knight. And it looks like black is going to lose the knight in this position. If knight c7, then here white actually wins after promoting. So if that is taken, king takes a8, king to c8, but here white can force black into a trebuchet position, meaning that any move black makes, he will lose the game. So here the idea is king a7, king c7, king a6, king c6, and here king to a5, we reach a trebuchet position, so black has to part with this pawn and he is going to lose. So he has to play king to d5, then king takes b5, and white wins. So here after promoting, knight takes, king takes, no better is king to c7 because simply king a7, if king c6, king a6, and again we reach a trebuchet position. Black cannot continue defending the pawn on b5 because the square c5 is covered by white's pawn. So if king d5, then again king takes b5. So here king to b7 looks like black is going to lose the knight, but here Praggu sees a very important drawing motif. He plays king to d7, so allowing white to go king takes a8, but the point is here that now Pragu plays king to c7, which still mates white's king. So I hope you enjoyed this very interesting endgame from both Nakamura and Praggnanandhaa. Thank you again to Pradyumna Suresha for the video suggestion. Let me know in the comment section what you think about showing sections of the game instead of showing the whole game. Once again, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to share, like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great day.